Welcome back to the Needy and Normal podcast, or welcome for the first time. I'm so glad you're here. You pushing play means the world to me. And also, how awesome are you for seeing a topic that really resonated with you? We're going to talk about burnout. We're going to talk about when is it Friday. We're going to talk about aging bodies. I've done a little research for this one. If you're over the age of 35, this is your episode, whether you're a male or a female. I'm going to kick this off with a story. I'm going to give you some fun facts. And at the end, I'm going to load you up with some really great quotes about burnout that hopefully you can tuck in your back pocket and think of when you're getting to that not so sweet spot of, oh shit, I've done it again. Burnout is not fun. But the thing is, even when we get to that point, we can get ourselves out. So we'll talk about that as well. This is Needy and Normal. Welcome. I'm your host, Ashley Levering, mom, wife, and life coach. After years of coaching and learning from my own life, one thing is clear. Meeting your needs is essential for living your best life. Here, we'll talk about your needs and not only learn to accept them, but also tend to them without guilt. Let's get needy because it's normal. I recently started physical therapy again. I say again because when I was younger, I was a gymnast, I was a dancer. I feel like I was in physical therapy as like a regular. I think everyone knew my name. Hey, Ashley, working on the ankle or the knee or the hip. Like I always had some kind of ailment. And what I noticed going back to physical therapy for my feet, I have very flat feet. As a gymnast and a dancer, I really had to force myself to have an arch. In fact, I think I even trained my muscles with all of the pointed toes and the releves and, turning on my feet. Like I really had to force an arch and my foot kind of got used to that. And I have really weak ankles and I have really weak wrists. That's just part of who I am and where I come from. But because of the dancing and constantly strengthening my body and working my body out, like I built up, quite a lot of strength and I guess fake, I'm air quoting, like fake structure to my body, even though I had these horribly flat feet and these weak ankles. And so when I would injure myself, it was always like my, lower half. My hips didn't start bothering me till later in life. That's fun. But I had these knee issues, my ankle issues, I had feet issues. I sprained my ankle really badly when I was 16, right before competition. So what did I do? I got off of it for a little bit. And then as soon as it felt like, okay, I got right back on it and I kept dancing and I pushed past my capacity. And of course, I re-injured it more than once. And by the third time that I re-injured it, the doctor said, listen, you're going to have arthritis. You're going to have issues. Like you probably need to get surgery. And I was like, no, I'm good because I'm young and dumb. And my parents were trying to listen to me as far as where I was and my pain threshold and all that. But and there's a theme here, unfortunately, I really got used to pushing through. And so, of course, I let it heal as much as I possibly could, but I didn't want to let my team down. I couldn't imagine my life without dancing. So for me to be told, you need to get off your foot for like 8 to 12 or more weeks, like no way. So of course I pushed through. So all the injuries that I had from a young kid, oh gosh, I think I dislocated my knee for the first time when I was 7 or 8 years old in as a gymnast. So I just kept injuring myself all the way through high school. And then college ended up being a break for me for two reasons. One, dance was just not as accessible to me because, I was injured when I went to go audition for different schools. I had completely ripped my hamstring on the right side. I literally just kept injuring myself. It was a problem. But I was relentless and I'm still relentless. So I didn't really get to dance at the level that I wanted to dance once I got to college. So I really had to stop my body I stopped pushing my body, if you will. And of course I gained the freshman 20 because I didn't know how to go to the gym and work out. I really didn't. I mean, I understood certain concepts, but I didn't really exchange my dance life for the workout life. And I wish I would have. I wish I would have had a different kind of motivation, or I don't know. I don't know what my problem was. I can't go back in time and tell my 18-year-old self, like, get the fuck off the couch. And it wasn't that I was lazy. I was a very like active person. I was always doing something, going places, whatever. But like getting into an exercise routine just wasn't really my thing. So I was able to heal. I didn't really experience pain for a long time. Although anytime I decided to run or get back into my workouts, after that point, I always felt everything, the hamstring, the knees, the ankles, everything. And it was really annoying, but I always was able to get through it and push past it. Well, not as easy now, you guys. It got harder. It's a bummer. And I get it, but like I hate when someone tells you, well, you're older now and things are gonna heal a little slower. It pisses me off because in my brain I'm still 16 with an injury and I can push through and win a dance competition. So it's annoying. We don't like, if we're go-getters and we like to move our bodies and we like to just do all the things, or if we're moms and we don't feel like we have a choice to stop or slow down or get off our damn feet, like it's frustrating. It's frustrating. So here's the backstory. Obviously, my right foot has been an issue for me for a long time. The doctors were right. It never healed correctly. My ankle's very weak. I'm very highly susceptible to injury. I've probably sprained it like 3 or 4 times since that time in my life. Most recently, let's see, just under a year ago from now, when I'm recording this, I sprained my foot. It was like, not my ankle per se, but it affected my ankle, that's for sure. Anyways, I was thinking I'm strong, I have to keep going, and I iced it and I babied it as much as I could, but like I did when I was 16, as soon as I felt like it was not good enough, I got up, I got back in the gym, I have a regular routine, I don't like messing with it. I'm up and down my stairs with laundry baskets. I'm walking the dog. I'm doing all the things. And I don't feel, as much as I love self-care and I am a huge fan of it and I promote it and I teach it and all those things, like sometimes life is life and it is hard to stop. It is hard to slow down. So that's one challenge. And then the other challenge is just being told you're taking a long time to heal because A, past injuries, and B, I'm over 35 and there's just no way around it. It is what it is. So I decided after over a year on my left foot, sprained that one too. My husband makes fun of me. He's like, why are you always hurt? I just am because I don't stop. Do we sense a theme? This is what the physical therapist picked up on. And it's really interesting calling out the life coach who teaches self-care. Hey, you don't slow down much, do you? And I'm cautious of the burnout. I'm cautious of overstressing myself out. I'm cautious of spending more energy than I have to spend, but occasionally I bypass and I just move right through it. So when I'm telling her about, well, this right foot, I sprained it in November, and as I'm recording, we're kind of in the middle of May. And it still hurts and it pisses me off. And I still go to the gym. I still do my routine. I don't really slow down. And I told her a little of my history of all the injuries I've had and how my husband makes fun of me because I seem to be hurt all the time. But I just keep going. And she goes, I'm sensing a theme. And I really thought about that after I left. And she gives me my homework assignments. I got to go home and do my exercises, and I'm doing really well with it. It's great. And I'm really dedicated because I need my feet. I need to heal. I need to move on. I've mostly accepted the fact that over 35 things heal slower, but that is something that was like a big reality for me when she looked at me and she goes, just so you know, you are closer to 40 and sometimes things take longer to heal. And the rebel in me, she's always been there, guys. I've always had a little rebel in me. Is like, no, I'm going to heal fast. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to get better. But the reality is, anytime I hurt myself, I hurt my finger not that long ago, everything just takes longer. And so no matter how healthy I am, how well I eat or work out or whatever, sometimes reality bites. But the reason I'm telling you the story is, A, shit happens, we get older, and we have to pay attention to that. But also, if there is a capacity that we're breaching and we're passing, we're still allowed to notice that. We're still allowed to be like, hold on, all right, I see what's happening here. And I think this is kind of my big alarm, saying, hey, listen, I know you can do all the things. This is my higher self talking to me, just so you know, like we're going to have a conversation. So my higher self is saying, listen, Ashley, I know you can do all the things. I know you're super strong. I know you're very resilient. I know you have a family to take care of and a dog to walk and a house to take care of and a business to run and all the things. You can do all the things, but also you do not need to get so overstressed or overwhelmed or overwork your body to a point of injury and burnout. That's just not an option anymore. And so one of the things I want to bring our attention to on this episode is, how do we know, and I'm sure I've talked about this before, but like, how do we know when it's getting to that point? Do we have to get sick and we have to call in because we're so burnt out, our body literally hijacked us and said, no, sit down, take a nap? That happens. I work with people who get to that point all the time. And sometimes it's not just a cold, sometimes it's more than that. Do we have to be injured for us to like ease up on, whatever kind of workout we think we can do? I don't know. So how bad does it have to get before you're finally like, oof, I think I'm a little overdone here. I'm a little past capacity. So I want to bring attention to being more intuitive with and mindful of how you're running your life. My therapist actually brought this to my attention too. And so, it's a really good check-in for everybody to just be like, is there anything on my plate that doesn't need to be there? Is there something on my schedule this week, today, tomorrow, that just doesn't need to be there? Is there anything, like in my case, is there anything I'm doing with my body that's just maybe too much right now? My silly ass was really ambitious and wanted to start running. Well, no, I can't do that right now. It's a silly goal for me because I really don't love running, but I love what it can do if I could get into it. And my physical therapist was like, no, don't start running. And even before she told me that, I did recognize it. I intuitively and mindfully, I was like, man, it's probably not the right time for that, but maybe it's something I could work up to. So the way I tended to that was, okay, higher self, telling my push through self, listen, you can be a runner of sorts, but not today. However, you can tell your physical therapist that's a goal of yours, and she can help you get strong in your ankles and your feet at your age so you can finally start running. So there's a lot of acceptance in that intuitive stuff. So if you're over the age of 35, or it doesn't matter how old you are, we are allowed to tap into our intuition and listen to our body. If it is telling us enough is enough, whether it's mentally an emotional load, right? Because there's so much of that, or it's your body physically screaming at you saying, no, this is too much. So let this be your reminder. It's mine too. Sometimes we have to slow down. You're no good to yourself. You're no good to anybody else if you run yourself into the ground where you're too tired, you're injured, you're sick, you're mentally tapped out. That's just like, nobody can function like that. And if you're trying to function in any of those places in your life, like, no, you don't have to do that. It's too much. It's too much. So what do you do? Slow down for a minute and decide what can come off your plate, what can come off your schedule. And the other thing, which I love, which is so important, is how can you get some help? How can you get some support? Or what kind of conversation do you have to have with whom, to give yourself a little bit of that slowdown and a little bit of that ease? It doesn't make you less than. It doesn't mean you can't get back up and try again. But if you're burnt out and you're overdone and overstressed, if you're injured, like, what good are you? This injury of mine is a perfect example. I get that I've been dumb and pushing through because I have given myself the excuse of, well, I don't have a choice, but I do. Somebody recently asked me, what does a life coach do to like reset every day? And the answer is, I need to get off my feet for about an hour a day. Now, sometimes that's not until the very end of the day at night, and not just off my feet, like unplugged, not doing anything that requires my emotions, my mental load, like trying to logistically process and think through things and organize things, and then physically just tell my body to stop moving. If I have an hour of that a day, and typically that would be best if there was 2 of those, if I'm being real, one time in the middle of the day and one time before I go to bed. So even before I get in bed, go to sleep, my feet are obviously up and I'm done thinking. because hopefully, like me, which I'm constantly tweaking, you have a good bedtime routine, which helps you shut your brain down and put all the things of the day and of the day tomorrow to bed. Just a quick tip, because I know this is tough. I know we get in bed and we scroll through our phone and we look at our emails and we think about what we have to do tomorrow and we start to, doom scroll if we're really just overdone. If you're really like past capacity and you start doom scrolling, I don't love calling it doom scrolling, by the way. But if you're at the point where you're trying to zone out by looking at your phone, find another way. Write down all the things that you did for the day. Go to bed winning. I've talked about this before. And then put everything down that you have to do the next day. So separately, right? So yay, I did all that. And then, okay, I know what I have to do tomorrow. And then boom, you don't have to think about it anymore. Make sense? Quick tip for you. But have an established break in your day, at least once a day, honestly, because to prevent burnout, like if we want to get ahead of it, you've got to enter in those slowdowns. You've got to enter in those mindful moments to steal yourself from your day and take a chill and take a pause, whether it's the mental or physical load, honestly. And, in the long run, you want to get ahead of it. But because we don't always have the luxury of, oh shit, I've gotten to burnout, I need to go on a retreat vacation. That's not always available. So even if you get to that point of, I'm overcooked here, I'm burning out, I'm getting to that point, there you always have that option just to decide. You can have that conversation with your higher self, and your higher self can say, listen, starting today, you need to take pauses and slowdowns in every single day so you can rebuild your energy and get back on track, so you don't feel like you're spinning out of control or that you're breaking down. And if it's like me, and granted, I'm getting through it, but like my body is physically telling me you need to chill. And so, like I said, I'd ideally like 2 hours back to back, twice a day. But life is life. So you do what you absolutely can. If it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, increase it over time. But the thing is, in order to get ahead of it, you have to steal yourself from the momentum that your body and your mind just cannot keep up with. And that's truly what burnout ends up being. If you look at a definition of burnout, it's when you have too much stress or frustration or weight physically or mentally, whatever, and you're too slow to process it and you go into overdrive and it's just too much. You're literally colliding with yourself. So I guess that was my definition. You're welcome. But the point is, you don't need to get to that point. And yet reality is reality. It happens. So as long as you know what to do, if you end up getting to that place where you're like, oh my God, is it Friday yet? When you are wishing and hoping for that slowdown, when you're really starting to feel that intense desire to do nothing, to take a nap, to not talk to people, when you're maxed out, like that feeling. And you've probably said it, oh my God, is it Friday yet? I had a friend be like, can I drink on a Tuesday? Like, I get it. It happens. So if you're feeling that on high, you're not alone, you're a human being, but there's always a choice. There's always something you can do to tune into your higher self, listen to what they have to say, and follow the bouncing ball, right? But except, here's where I'm at, and at least come up with one thing that you can do to kind of counter where you're at so you don't make it worse for yourself, because you don't need that. Like we said, that just makes you not good for you or other people. So if you do a little Googling, which we all do from time to time, the World Health Organization defines burnout as a syndrome. It's a syndrome that occurs when chronic workplace stress is not managed effectively, or general stress. It's characterized by emotional exhaustion, cynicism or depersonalization, and a reduced sense of accomplishment. It goes on to say people experiencing burnout may feel drained, depleted, and unable to cope with problems. They may feel distant from their work and environment and have a negative attitude towards their job. So obviously in this case, this is towards your job. I know I'm talking more in like a general sense, but if this is happening when you're on the job, again, pause, figure out what you actually can do, see what can come off your plate, see where you can get some help. And if you need a break, you arrange for one. You are no good to yourself or others if you can't reset and get yourself in a better headspace. I mean, this just explains it. Like, you really detach yourself from things. You feel drained, you're depleted, you're unable to cope. And if you're at that point, you're no good. You almost don't have a choice. So if you need an excuse or permission, if you're at that point, you absolutely don't have a choice. You have to get back into your body again. You know, the truth is burnout does not discriminate. It'll find you. It'll go after anyone as long as you're a hard worker. And even if it's just a mental stress, like a mental stress of life, it'll find you. So why, if we can't avoid burnout trying to come find us and get after us, then why can't the opposite be true as well? The fact that we absolutely have to counteract burnout or get in front of burnout. We have to look out for ourselves in order to not get to that point. Or at least see it coming so we can get ahead of it or know, okay, I'm starting to get to that point again. Here are my tools. Here are my to-dos. Here are the things that work for me. And it might have to do with, like I've talked about, checking on your schedule, what can come off your plate, asking for help, seeing where you can get some support, working on your sleep routine, making sure that your body is getting what it needs, right? Having the fuel, having the sleep, having the food and the water and the shelter and all the things, right? Like, go back to your basic needs. I've talked about that before. Whenever you get to a point where you're feeling overwhelmed, stressed out, burnt out, whatever it is, you can ask yourself, what is it that I need? So tapping back into that mindfulness, that intuitive living, and listening to your body will help you get better in touch with your higher self. So if you've never really thought about your higher self, she or he is the one who's like, listen, I know what's best for you. And that lives inside of all of us. To send you on your way, I'm going to give you a few quotes. Burnout is due to a lack of respect for your personal boundaries. This is author unknown, but how much sense does that make, right? So if you're starting to go past your own personal boundaries, you might run into burnout. Self-care is essential to combating burnout. Agreed. In order to break the cycle of burnout, it is important to observe and identify your burn events. Prepare for those you can identify and recover from each. That's by Dr. Kate Steiner. I agree. We just talked about this, getting ahead of it, right? This one's for my ladies. The problem is not that women don't try. On the contrary, we're trying all the time to do and be all the things everyone demands from us. Whoa. So if we feel like we're being demanded of, maybe burnout's trying to find you. Many of us have been running all our lives. Practice stopping. That's the famous Thich Nhat Hanh. I could tell you a million these, but the point is you matter. Your needs matter because you matter. Burnout is not for fun. It's what we run into when we're not looking out for ourselves. So please do yourself a favor and breathe. Take a pause and see if you can get ahead of that burnout. See if you can have a relationship with your higher self. And if you are facing burnout, I promise you there are things to be done and you'll be okay. And if you're really curious, I'll let you know how my foot's doing. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for listening. Come back next week. Take care. Thank you so much for listening to the Needy and Normal podcast today. If you liked this episode, please share it and please rate and review the podcast. It would mean the absolute world to me. To explore and book your own free initial coaching session, visit ablifecoaching.com. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at ABL Life Coaching. And you can also follow Needy and Normal Pod on Instagram as well.